That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car.
So they've just released what is basically body cam footage of the ICE-related shooting in Minnesota. Technically, it was filmed on the ICE agent's cell phone, but the idea is the same. We want to see what happened from his point of view. And to make a long story short, everything we thought about this case from the beginning was completely vindicated and then some. Because not only is it, first of all, once again proven that the crazy liberal was trying to drive directly into the ICE agent, and the ICE agent acted very quickly in defense of his own life, but we further now have the confirmation. Yes, the ICE agent was actually struck with the vehicle, number one, and number two. You may remember there was a lot of speculation at the time, especially coming from liberals, that, oh, maybe she was just trying to drive away. That's still fleeing law enforcement, but fine. Or maybe she acted in a panic and it was never her intention to run over the ICE agent. Well, in this video, right, from his point of view, you can see she does not appear to be panicking. She actually looks the ICE agent right in the eye, then drives forward, which further demonstrates, we can't ask her now, obviously, but a likely terroristic intent to harm and or kill that ICE agent, which further vindicates the case of self-defense. Although, as I said from the beginning, it ultimately does not matter because that ICE agent in that moment does not have time to ask, hey, are you trying to flee or are you trying to run me over? The point is what? He's in imminent danger of his life. He has to act to protect his own life. But even then, this argument from liberals, oh, she was just trying to drive away. She was just trying to escape. Further destroyed here by the actual evidence. We'll talk about all of it here today, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news and coverage, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate the support. And that said, before we get directly into this footage, I first of all just want to remind people what elected Democrats like Tim Walz, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries said about this from the beginning, because they, of course, proclaimed the liberal woman in this case, Renee Good, to be innocent. And in many cases, they used those exact words. And now we have the evidence. So just keep that in mind.
They have determined the character of a 37-year-old mom that they didn't even don't know. They've determined that the actions are done. I don't know. I've not used inflammatory terms of what happened. I've asked us to find the answers.
A few moments later.
When Kristi Noem was judge, jury, and basically executioner yesterday. That's very, very difficult. All of you saw a video in your eyes. We have a chaotic situation caused by the largest deployment in American history of federal agents into a community with no communication to locals. We had a chaotic situation where an individual is in their car, shot and killed. And so, look, I want to be very cautious here.
Okay, so just as a reminder, right? That is the type of rhetoric we have heard thus far. One moment, Tim Walz is saying he's going to wait for the facts. He wants a full investigation. And then 2 seconds later, he tells you immediately what he really thinks. That woman was innocent. Kristi Noem is the judge, jury, and executioner. You know, BLM activists use that type of dumb rhetoric regarding self-defense all of the time. And of course, if you've been paying attention, he's been fuming a lot over the fact that the federal government, aka the FBI, will be handling the investigation themselves. He's basically saying the state of Minnesota should have a role. Oh, you mean the very state of Minnesota where you're already saying that the domestic terrorist in this case was innocent? That state of Minnesota, or the one that gave a complete sham trial to Derek Chauvin, right? That basically rigged the case to go in a certain political narrative. Yeah, we don't exactly trust you on that, but keep in mind, on top of that, okay, what we are getting right now, folks, is the so-called full investigation. Do you know what investigations actually require, Democrats? Not just empty rhetoric, not just screaming or protesting in the streets. That's not what investigation looks like. An investigation is when you go into and release the evidence. And in many such cases that we've seen before in the so-called police brutality type of situations, the actual evidence does not bode well for liberals. I'm going to tell you more about this in a second, but I do just want to say, I think that body cameras were the worst thing to ever happen to those left-wing activists. They called for it for years. Oh, we need transparency. We need to be able to see. In this case, the ICE agent is not even mandated to wear a body camera, but he's filming with his phone. So that way, the world, and you know, very interesting. They say, oh, they're the secret police. They're the Gestapo. Here he is filming with his phone so that the world can see. That evidence is now released. And guess what? It doesn't look good for them. But of course, Tim Walz has been far from alone in this. Here you have Hakeem Jeffries saying that the killing of Renee Good was an abomination, a disgrace, and not just that, right? Blood is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the administration who've been pushing an extreme policy. So the blood is on the hands here of the government. Chuck Schumer further says he watched the video and says there seems to be no justification for what these agents did. Well, you can clearly see that on video, but of course, Democrats are just directly lying about this. He calls for a full investigation. Again, I say, that's what you're getting. We'll get into that in a second. First, take a listen.
Let me first say that the killing of Renee Nicole Good was an abomination, a disgrace. And blood is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the administration who've been pushing an extreme policy that has nothing to do with immigration enforcement connected to removing violent felons from this country. We support the removal of violent felons from this country who are here illegally.
No, you don't.
I watched the video. You felt like your stomach was being punched. Looking at the video, there seemed no justification for what these agents did. There needs to be a full investigation at the federal level, although I have little faith in the FBI at doing a fair investigation, or DHS, but at the local level as well.
Oh, really? You watched the video, did you, Chuck? You saw no justification for what the ICE agent did. You want a full investigation? Here's what that looks like. All right, that said, as you can see right here, Alpha News has apparently obtained cell phone footage showing the perspective of the federal agent at the center of the ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. A lot of things to break down about this, but first, let's show you it. Again, graphic content warning. Kids, close your eyes. But here's essentially what happened from the ICE agent's point of view. Viewer discretion is advised.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Oh!
Yeah, so plenty of takeaways there, but let's start with the most important one. First and foremost, as you can see from the angle, she drove the car right directly into him, and as you can appear to hear, she hit him with the car, okay? So this idea that the ICE agent was really off to the side or even watching it in real time, oh, he could have totally had time to do a James Bond move and jump on the car or like roll off to the side. It's ridiculous, right? The ICE agent had maybe split seconds to act, and you can clearly see cars coming right at him. He acted. That's what matters most, okay? Because that's the argument over the self-defense angle. Now, I heard some out there try to say, why are you standing in front of the car? I mean, that seems pretty stupid, to which I say it doesn't change the fact that, you know, self-defense is self-defense, right? If a car is driving right into you, regardless of whether you should have been standing there or not, yeah, I mean, that's self-defense. But even then, you can see from what the ICE agent is doing, he wasn't just like standing in front of the car and just trying to instigate the driver, oh, hey, come right into me, right? He actually here appears to be filming her because he's showing this for evidence, right? Well, likely she was already breaking the law. They were already agitating. They were already impeding with law enforcement. And that does appear to be why he does a full sweep of the car, right? Notice that. So he's like, oh, let me show what the car looks like. Let me show the driver. Let me get the plates, etc., etc. That's what he was doing. Okay, so he wasn't just like loitering in front of the car, as if that even matters. Lastly, though, again, this whole argument, we talked about it, Mehdi Hassan, many others were trying to bring it up. She was just trying to drive away. She was just in a panic, right? Well, clearly, first of all, you can tell by their behavior and the context of this, what they're saying. She's not really having a freak out. She's absolutely not a person in a panic. As a matter of fact, they're actually extremely arrogant. They're like, oh, I'm calm. And then they're, just straight up talking crap to the ICE officers in a extremely relaxed demeanor. Yeah, let me just say it was not a panicked, oh no, wait, what am I doing? I'm freaking out. No. You can see actually a pretty high degree of intentionality with what was done here. And folks, if you still don't believe me on that, just take a look at this camera angle right here, right? So you kind of get a freeze frame from the video. You can see Renee Good, the suspect here, was staring directly at the ICE agent when she floored the gas pedal into him, right? So she's looking right at him. She actually moves and angles the car, and we talked about this even from the side angle, right? In a way, making sure it would come right at the ICE agent, and that's exactly what she did. Folks, it does not appear by any account that she was simply trying to drive away. So again, just to recap that, they were already instigating, they were already agitating. I understand that's not an excuse to just use lethal force, but it is to say, right? They don't appear to have been in a panic. Oh, she was caught in a bad situation, whatever. No, it was very intentional what they were up to, okay? She looks him right in the eye. She drives right into him, strikes him with the vehicle. That's when he appears to open fire, and it's not like, he let off 10, 12 rounds like the BLM activists always get mad about it. I think I heard, 2 shots? That was about it. And, while he's like trying to get out of the way of that vehicle, it's self-defense. I mean, straight up. And to once again reestablish, right? A vehicle absolutely is a deadly weapon. Not to mention, she's driving a pretty big car. We showed you yesterday a similar case out of Baltimore where a police officer in the same situation, right? Basically about the same distance away from a Jeep. The Jeep comes at her not even that fast, but it was fatal. It did kill her. Why? That's a 6,000 pound likely vehicle. Okay, even at low speeds, hitting a pedestrian, it can cause a lot of damage. And that's, of course, the very reason why the ICE agent acted in defense of his life. So, again, Democrats are like, oh, we want to see more evidence, right? They called for years for body cameras. And what does the body camera show? That as to a degree, as I'll repeat, it is a tragedy because this woman who, yes, does have a child at home was so brainwashed in the cult of violent leftism that she thought this was a good thing to do, right? That's the tragedy there, and it's very sad. It's no different than when an Islamic terrorist gets radicalized and throws away their life to go harm others. That's the tragic side of it, sure. But in terms of, her just accidentally getting caught up in this situation, right? She was just panicking. She was just freaking out. She was trying to get away. None of that is true, right? It's actually extremely clear. It was intentional what she was doing. And I want to point out, that was kind of the gray area that we didn't know thus far, right? Was she just freaking out and trying to get away? Was she intentionally trying to commit an act of domestic terrorism? Actually, the body cam footage, once again, as we see in so many of these cases, vindicates that the suspect was absolutely acting, right, with malicious intent. So yes, I feel bad for her child. It's a tragic situation that, this had to happen. But you cannot simultaneously say that her actions here were heroic or she was doing the right thing. She was, acting as a valid member of the resistance. I guess you can say that if you're a Democrat because, as I pointed out, it's basically been their stance from the very beginning of this. The reason they don't care about the facts, the reason they don't care about this video is because they absolutely did want this ICE agent to be killed. They think it's a good thing. They celebrate, right? Political violence, and that's, of course, what this is all about. But, okay, there you have it. And, of course, what is Tim Walz saying about all of this? He's trying to quote 1984, right? Despite the fact that even the side angle videos show a pretty clear picture, no, he's trying to say the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential directive. It certainly feels like that in this moment. No, we're not rejecting, right, the evidence of our eyes and ears. We're watching the evidence of our eyes and ears. That's exactly what you're calling for, okay? But anyways.
Those words we remembered, many of us in here in sophomore, when we read it, that the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most important directive. It certainly feels like that in this moment. And so I want Minnesotans to not believe that I'm telling you not to be angry, not to be scared, not to be feeling a little bit hopeless in this moment. But I would also say this, and I saw it last night, I saw it during George Floyd, I've seen it throughout our history. When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line.
Yeah, and then, of course, he basically tries to go on and declare civil war against the federal government. But you could probably tell a deep irony, hypocrisy, if you want to call it that, because that's exactly what he's calling you to do, right? Reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. But I would like to point out, as sick and screwed up as it is, this is sort of the moment that the left wing has been waiting for, right? They're actually kind of in a weird sense gleeful about this. I know it's sick to say, but it's true because, they've been waiting for any opportunity, much like BLM, by the way. You notice how they exploit even situations where the officer's acting in self-defense and they rise up, they don't care. Why? Because it's their agenda to, first of all, in a broader picture, right, topple Western civilization. But in this case right here, right, they want to basically find any reason to paint ICE agents as Gestapo or Nazis. And so, anytime something like this happens, it doesn't matter the context. That's why they haven't cared from the beginning, right? They heard a U.S. citizen was shot by ICE. Therefore, let's go protest. See, they're the Nazis. See, we told you about it. Although, when you look at, frankly, most of the history, if not all, of the left wing in America and the way they've exploited these kinds of incidents to say, oh, look, the government's cracking down on us. They're against us. They're evil. They're persecuting us. Essentially, all of them are either, I'm not going to use the word fake, but basically used in a way where you basically instigated the situation, right? And then took the picture once there was a retaliation. You see that all the time at protests, by the way. It's the same thing, right? They're chucking stuff at police officers. They're chucking stuff at ICE, throwing Molotov cocktails, burning stuff. And then when the tear gas gets deployed, what do they say? ICE is tear gassing peaceful protesters. Take the picture, get the cameras out. They've used that strategy, by the way, for many decades. Same thing in the 1960s, right? And it's really the same thing here, Again, tragedy. I'm not like cheering or saying yay over it, but it is the truth here, right? That she, quite intentionally by what we saw, drove into the ICE agent, and the liberals are, of course, painting the ICE agent as a bad guy for acting in self-defense of his own life, So that's what's going on, and, I frankly think you want to have a full investigation, let's have it. The more video we see of this incident, the more it vindicates the ICE agent, Maybe liberals should stop digging. Maybe they should just admit they're lying, admit they're doing exactly the 1984 quote, reject the evidence, just believe the narrative on it, right? But anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.